The New Future of Making on Mars, a tutorial conference for students. Discover possibilities for you to take part in the exploration of Mars. 5 tutorials, 1 plan for building a science station on Mars, 1 veteran's guess about the future, 1 super interview on hot robotics in Leo, 1 conference summary, 8 subject matter world experts from NASA, top universities, and 3 space companies. Sponsored by the Mars Society of Canada, MakerWorks of Ann Arbor. Organized by 2 Planet Steel. See possibilities you haven't seen before.
In his talk, Achieving a Human Presence on Mars, NASA veteran Robert Moses dives into where we stand today on the journey to Mars and what he hopes to see happen in the next decade. With a sharp focus on affordability, Moses outlines key factors for making humans on Mars a reality. Moses possesses a deep understanding of these subjects from his time at NASA, where he tackled the challenge of getting astronauts to and from space safely and affordably.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about achieving a permanent human presence on Mars. I spent 33 years at NASA as an aerospace technologist, looking at how we get astronauts to Mars and back safely and affordably, actually. And it certainly involved living off the land. Since retiring from NASA several years ago, I've been working as a consultant in the field in aerospace. In fact, I'm busier now than when I was at NASA. Along the way, I founded 2 Planet Species, and I've got a website, and I use that for consulting as well as my writings. So I'm going to present, and I'm happy to answer questions later. So my first chart is achieving permanent human presence on Mars is constrained by distance from Earth, lander capacity, and a number of safe days in space for astronauts. I can certainly cite a number of references for all of this, and I think you could find those as well. The many studies that I conducted at NASA and outside NASA at Explore Mars organization and elsewhere, achieving permanent human presence on Mars requires a phased campaign of missions involving refueling in orbit, plus robotics, teleoperations, and trusted autonomy to in place the infrastructure to support a growing settlement. Furthermore, achieving the permanent presence demands living off the land by exploiting abundant resources on Mars. You've heard Rolf talk about exploiting the steel and minimizing what is brought from Earth. And you definitely need to avoid managing scarcity. Managing scarcity will result in loss of crew and loss of mission. In terms of permanent human presence on Mars, it could turn Mars into the Walmart of the inner solar system by converting vast resources there on Mars and nearby into products necessary for a spacefaring society. I've written several chapters and papers and articles on this, and it's very promising, and it's something to imagine. In terms of the timing, we launched Viking in 1975, both landers. They both landed on Mars in 1976. The first lander, Viking lander, landed on the 7th anniversary of the Apollo 11. So we thought we were going to get boots on Mars pretty quick. As we know, that has not yet happened. So seeing SpaceX able to bring down cost by drastically lowering cost with reusable rockets to reach Earth orbit is very promising. Certainly the cost of getting to Mars has been prohibitive. What's affordable isn't safe for the crew, and what is safe for the crew is simply not affordable. However, with the lowered cost to reach Earth orbit, that helps a lot. The second thing is SpaceX plans for Mars. This was published recently in the AIAA, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, Aerospace America magazine. I commented on it, and that's how Rolf found me. But Elon's plans is footprints on Mars within the next 10 years. Now, his former footprints isn't exactly the boot prints of astronauts. He wants to send all his robotic androids there. So that's an interesting article. I point you to it to read it. And what's Furthermore, promising in terms of it being excellent timing over the next decade or so is there are other companies developing systems and hardware. Not only has Blue Origin demonstrated that they can do the same reusable rockets as SpaceX, but they're now looking to supersize their New Glenn and be more competitive with Starship. So again, the indicators are pretty good. They're a lot better than when I joined NASA. So it's for those of you out there in school, this may be your time. What would I like to see happen? The short answer, I would like to see SpaceX following through on its Mars plans. The If I was just staring up in the sky and looking for signs that we're making progress on going to Mars, what would that look like? Well, if anyone stared up in the sky at dusk and had the sun reflecting against spacecraft, it's easy to spot the International Space Station overhead. And also, in my days, I could see the shuttle docking and undocking from ISS. So it's not unfathomable to think that the massive refueling activities that would occur in Earth orbit by SpaceX or anyone trying to go to Mars, you'd be able to observe those at dusk on some days overhead. So that certainly would be a visible sign that something's happening. The other thing is, there's a lot of talk about a crew flyby, not landing, but just do a flyby of Mars, similar to what Artemis just did about the moon with the SLS and Orion. So there's talk of a flyby, and maybe that'll happen by 2031. The next thing I like to see is we know that Earth and Mars will be at their closest uh, orbits to each other in 2033. And I'm pretty sure it's SpaceX's plans to throw a fleet of spacecraft, starships over to Mars. And I'd like to see that happen in that close proximity orbit, transfer orbit. So by 2034, watching, through video that you got spacecraft in orbit, either through orbiters or video brought back from starships. What I think will happen. Uh, History has demonstrated that programs get delayed. So I anticipate more delays. I anticipate that Starship will encounter some issues, and those the plans that SpaceX has laid out may not go exactly as choreographed right now. But I do expect astronauts on Mars during my lifetime. Based on how long my family members have been living, I think I got pretty good genes, and I think I stand a really good chance of seeing that happen.
You have just heard a talk in the conference for students, The New Future of Making on Mars. People like you are taking part in the exploration of Mars. You can too. This online conference is sponsored by the Mars Society of Canada and MakerWorks of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and organized by 2 Planet Steel. Please like, subscribe, and watch more conference videos.